Warning, the following video contains spoilers. If you don't want this episode spoiled for you, switch the video off now. Well, I'm never going to be able to use the phrase "dear listeners" ever again without someone thinking it's a reference to this week's episode. Speaking of this week's episode, what did you, dear listener, think about this week's episode of My Hero Academia? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below and I'll be sure to get back to you shortly, either directly in the comments themselves or towards the end of next week's video in its own special segment. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube's an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It does them a power of good. As for my opinion, I thought this week's episode was a lot of fun. Almost constantly fun from start to finish. Funny with some jokes that really landed well for me and were almost perfectly timed. Maybe I'm just getting used to watching it subbed, but either way, this episode was a riot. Some really great character gags. Minatta's still a sex pervert. Asui still knows how to deal with him. Bakugo and Shoto may know disco dancing. And Tenya doesn't know what fun is. I want to know what fun is. I want you to show me. There's something faintly nostalgic about this week's episode. It reminds me a lot of my time at university, when you'd have similar kind of events to what they're playing in this week's episode taking place, like the clubs and societies fairs, or the events I'd have to authorise as the leader of the clubs and societies forum. I even remember a time when the anime society themselves did their own maid cafe. I never attended it because at the time I was too pissed to walk. It's really refreshing to spend some dedicated time with our extended cast, which is something I've been begging for weeks now. We're getting a better sense of who Jiro is and her own insecurities when it comes to performing. We get to see how the effects of the past few weeks have been changing and altering Kirishima's outlook on life. And we see Aoyama coming out of his shell and being more present within the story itself. All this stuff helps to make it feel as though our characters are genuinely evolving and changing before our eyes, and we're actually getting to understand them themselves, and they're all contributing something to the story, other than looking kind of cool when they do their superhero thing. It really makes them feel more like three-dimensional characters and actually part of a greater story than just background characters, and it is something that, like I said in my big initial impressions video, that I wish a lot of other shows would end up doing a lot more of. Our new villain is a YouTuber. Alright, well, he's a legally different one, but he's still a YouTuber. He's self-absorbed, egotistic, concerned about his viewing figures. He's happy to murder people to get ahead in life. So he'd make a really great YouTuber. We don't really know what his quirk is as yet. I'm sure it's already been revealed in the manga. But bearing in mind he seems to have a plan centered around Eri, I'm fairly certain he's not going to be around for much longer. You know what's going to happen. He's going to try and take out Eri or kidnap her or whatever. It's going to backfire horribly and most likely end up with being him and his companion end up getting killed. Either at the hands of her misusing or losing control of her quirk, or from some other superhero-related event. Or failing that, he'll end up getting beaten up by our heroes and end up in prison soon after. We'll soon see where that all goes, but bearing in mind we've only got 7 episodes left until this series comes to its conclusion, I imagine he's not going to be around for much longer. Unless he ends up becoming a key player in next season's storylines, you know, he's probably not going to be long for this world. I'm sure that next week we'll see more of him, get to learn a bit more about him, and maybe find out what his quirk is. Or he'll end up getting dragged out for an extra week. We'll soon find out about that. There's not much for me to actually say at this particular point in the review itself, so let's just dive into the overview and my overall feelings of the episode as a whole. Okay, so now the overview where I give you my overall thoughts and feelings of the episode. I just come up and do a big summary right in front of you. And I have to say that I really enjoyed this week's episode. It was very fun and enjoyable for what it was. And it gives me almost everything that I'm looking for when it comes to this show. I love the bits of our extended cast. It felt like a genuinely funny episode with some very funny moments within it. Our characters are just as fun as ever. And it's really great to see some slice of life stuff with them. And learn more about their backstories and personalities and to see them grow and develop. Now, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, dear listener, I kind of am a little bit more interested in the whole school drama stuff and the things that may end up happening with the festival stuff and their planning of it than I am with our new villain. That's not to say that it's not the kind of feelings that I had when it came to the second season of Stranger Things. Was more interested in the high school drama stuff than I was with the sci-fi fantasy stuff. But you know what? It's there. It's a feeling that won't go away, that I'm a little bit more interested in whether or not they're going to make this great event or not than whether or not Gentle's going to be an interesting villain or not. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of still sceptical as just how important the stuff with Gentle will end up being in the end. He kind of feels at this point like a throwaway villain. If it weren't for the fact that I know he's in the manga, I just feel as though he's an anime-created character. We don't know much about him, which I understand they're doing so as to make it a lot more enigmatic and a lot more mysterious, but even when that's said and done, there's just nothing about him or his design which really stands out to me. He just looks like a posh-looking guy with a knife, and that's just about it. And bearing in mind that the whole remedial arc ended really abruptly after only 3 episodes, I'm getting a feeling that this whole arc and its villain is only going to be a really short thing. Sure, the whole festival stuff, yeah, I can see that being wrapped up in 7 episodes. The stuff with him, hell, if I'm going to be honest with you, I could see it being wrapped up with 3, even though he's probably going to be here right up until the end of the season, but we'll soon see about that. But what did you think, dear listener? Did you love this week's episode of My Hero Academia? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you shortly, either directly in the comments themselves or towards the end of next week's video. And be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to. Click the bell and all that kind of stuff, because YouTube's an increasingly scary place to small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It does them a power of good. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and see you next time.